Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Enlightening Your Way. I am your host, Nancy Lombardo. We are airing live right here on the Lilydale Assembly official Facebook page and our YouTube channel. I'm a year-round resident here in Lilydale and the president of the Church of Living Spirit, which is an independent spiritualist church here in Lilydale. I'm a military veteran, retired police detective, and fitness and yoga instructor, and wellness is my passion. My show is a combination of my many life experiences that will feature various topics and guests to help enrich one's mind, body, and soul on your pathway to healthy living. And I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, um, Reverend Barbara Sanson. Barbara is the Summer Healing Temple Chairperson and has served in this position for over 30 years. Barbara lives full-time in Lilydale, is a Lilydale registered medium, and an ordained spiritualist minister. Barbara has studied many forms of healing and has taught numerous classes all across the United States. This is also airing on my Facebook page, Wellness with Nancy Lombardo, where my motto is protecting and serving your well-being. Thank you so much for being here, Barbara.
Oh, thank you, Nancy, for asking me. It is my pleasure on behalf of Lilydale and the church and you. Thank you very much.
Well, I told you I have a whole series of questions lined up, and you don't even know what I'm going to ask you.
Bring them on.
So I know you were ordained with the Fellowships of Spirit in 1990.
Yes.
Became chairperson of the Healing Temple in 1992, and a registered medium in 1994. Uh,
Yes.
so can you tell us about your life and beliefs prior to Lilydale?
Prior to Lilydale, well, some things changed somewhat, but basically my beliefs have kind of held true that each of us has a calling in our life, and it may be more than one calling in the same topic or category, but we have opportunity to expand and grow, help ourselves, help others. I've always believed that. I've always looked to the good, even though things aren't always pleasant and happen. But my heart has always wanted to help people. Always, not be. I had a successful business before I came here. I left it in some ways, if you will, believe it or not, folks, because I was too successful. I was overworked and I loved what I did, but I couldn't see myself keeping that particular video, that model going for year after year after year, when I knew that life was so expansive and full of love and creativity and the beauty of other people. And so I did pursue looking outside of where I was, and spirituality, uh, healing, if you will. I'd already learned therapeutic touch and some other things before I came to Lilydale. And I also always had a sense of intuition that was probably peaked then more than I realized. But I came to Lilydale and found the wonderful opportunity of being a minister and going through a 2 year program, helping others. And, you know, when you've been in charge of things as a young person in different ways and had responsibility, I don't mean you take over, but it's not always a difficult role to step from one set of circumstances to the other in the sense of service and help. And that's what I did, and I've never regretted it. I've loved the spiritual healing and that part of helping others because, folks, they are us and we are them. I mean, that we looked a little different, we operate a little differently. We're all, on the human side of being fragile or being vulnerable or mending or healing. So here I am.
I know you got registered fairly quickly after coming into Lilydale. Did you have those abilities early on in life, or is it something
Well,
that developed later?
I knew things, Nancy. I can remember in the 1980s just being very intuitive about things and having a sense of sometimes being wrong, absolutely, but a lot of times being bright. And they weren't big earth shattering things, although I'd call up my friends and the front page of a paper would be a airline crash and I dreamt about it the night before and things like that. And so it was learning how to put all of that information in a structured sequential order so it didn't make me unglued, but it made the information possible to help other people. And that's part of what I rolled over, if you will, in mediumship. And yes, when I was a young kid, I used to ride my horse and we'd go up on one of the drumlins on the top of the hill. And I'd just sit there or lay there in the grass. I'd get messages all the time. Now, did I know they were messages like I know them today, years later? No. But I realized in my journey that things come to you. You don't have to work at it so hard. People work at it so hard because they want to be so accurate and so correct. And I respect that greatly. But the joy of service and love comes before all in what I do. And so, uh, yes, I learned from various teachers wonderful things, what to do, and sometimes what not to do, which is good also. And it's been a pleasure. However, my love and my passion have always been and will be helping people through spiritual healing. And I respect both of those modalities of service from the spirit world, but I do so love them both. Yes.
Your successful business you talk about, was that when you were a hairstylist working with people?
I had a salon, yes. And you don't think of these things while you're in the mix, working day to day, taking care of a family, doing this, doing that. But I was touching the head of everyone. And I thought much later in life when I got here, I go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how significant that played in the connection with people, touching their crown energy. And everybody everybody wanted me to shampoo their hair 5 times, okay? Because they loved in a way, because they loved it so much. And I loved doing it for them. I
Not,
loved being of
not only
service.
that, when you're a stylist, I mean, everybody pours their heart and souls to you. So you're doing the counselor thing, you're
So
doing all of that.
Nancy, this is a little comic. I'd say, honey, I heard things I never wanted to hear again.
Yeah, yeah. So I could see how that would segue into this.
And a lot of beautiful things. Yeah, there will, people, when you get them in a comfort zone and you can talk to them, they often, open up and relax. And it was a beautiful experience because I met and engaged in friendship and conversation many, many wonderful men and women, mostly women. But at that time, men also came for their haircuts and brought their kids and so on and so forth. So I really had a wonderful experience.
I forget where you told me you rode your horse at. What state was that?
Well, this is New York State, in Upper New York State
Oh, you were
here.
in Upper New York State. So
Yes.
is that how you heard about Lilydale, from being in New York State?
No, I'll tell you, that's a very interesting little scenario too. I grew up 5 miles from Hydesville, the birthplace of,
Oh, you're kidding.
yes,
Yeah,
five.
yeah.
And my grandma used to go the back roads to a little town not far away. And so I'd, ride with her. And we would go by the house that was rebuilt, that stood there, signifying the Fox sisters' house. And I can remember one day in particular, the curtains were blowing out the windows, outside. They had been The air had sucked them outside, and they were blowing, and it was kind of a windy kind of a little threatening day of the wind and the rain. And I said, Grandma, do you think the spirits are in the house? And she said, could be. You want to stop? I said, no. But I grew up near there, and so going by there often was not a foreign or a strange thing. I was never afraid of it, Nancy. I grew up with uh, a man who was a wonderful uh, priest father, if you will, in our Episcopal church, and he was an excellent teacher and very patient with young people. I learned a lot of things from him. I learned a lot of things from both of my grandmothers, who were incredibly devoted and spiritual and religious. And it was, I can remember skipping down the road saying to myself, I'm going to be a nun. So I go and tell my grandmother that, and she said, honey, you don't want to be a nun. You can't ride your horse and you can't play baseball. So that kind of caved that in right away. And I thought, well, I've got to do something else like it in service. But I grew up with people who gave to one another, who made soup for the neighbors when they were sick, who did different things. And I couldn't imagine not helping people. So even in hairdressing, cosmetology, my place of business was often visited by people who, yes, gave me business by their appointments, but they just stopped in to say hi. They just stopped in to bring me a loaf of zucchini bread. They just stopped in to have a cup of coffee. And it was a good experience in my life at a time where I sort of needed to find myself and decide what I wanted to do with the next decade or two of my life. Now, at this point, after 33 years of being here, it's been a wonderful, wonderful story and privilege. It's what you make it, Nancy. I know you understand that. And every day hasn't been perfect. There have been troubles and challenges, not only in this community, but all over the world. And my friend and I do a lot of workshops for often just women, but not exclusively. Please, we never exclude anyone. And I know that the good that we've brought in love and self-discovery for them has been very, very good. And I'm a satisfied person. I don't need to be a star. I don't need to be on stage. I don't need to make a big thing of what I do, but to do it lovingly and quietly is a fulfilling journey, a fulfilling destiny, yes.
I was imagining when you were talking about the curtains, like in the movies, the white curtains
Yes.
going out in the wind.
It's true. It was like something out of a movie. And I probably was no more than 10 years old, but I so remember that. And my grandmother, who was, her background was British, and her mother was born in the Belgium area, I believe. And she was operated very much like, with protocol and dignity and proper etiquette and so on, with her British style of being reared. She was very instructive. She was very helpful about, let's say, what I would say to her about psychic things, about being a medium, about knowing messages. My grandmother was incredibly intuitive. We used to play the board game, and she was with it the whole way.
Well, they say it could be generational for sure. So was it your curiosity of the Fox Cottage that brought you to Lilydale?
Not so much that, though I love history. It's one of my favorite topics. I love history and old buildings, old barns. You go by as a kid, now not being who I am yet today, we'd go by places and I'd look at a barn and I go, I wonder who owned that. I wonder what they did with that barn. Did they build it? Did they hire people? Did they have horses in it? I mean, I would think all these things about properties, and often then pictures would start coming. When you start asking, things come back to you in answers. Whether they're the right answer or you're just learning, I know not at this moment to give to people, but things would respond to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes clairvoyant pictures, if you will, of things. And I thought, wow. And then I loved drawing. I loved art. I thought about it one time pursuing being an art teacher, but my parents didn't have the affordability of sending me to 4 years of art school.
Yeah.
But I would draw these pictures of places and events and things and think, wow, I wonder who this is from, but it came from somebody on the other side of life.
So when did you know when you came to Lilydale that you wanted to move here?
Oh, Nancy, you asked the greatest questions. And I will reply, it's when I fell and broke my leg. That's when yeah,
What?
when about 92, 91, I was at a spiritual insight training that
Yep.
my friend sponsored. And a friend and I were out on a walk. It had rained, much like today. It was a little gushy here and there. I had some, tie up little ankle high shoes on, the kind that are in style, the kind that you can easily slip and slide in. That's exactly what I did. I went down a little embankment down by the little place where you took the picture the other day, that little
The pavilion. Yeah.
pavilion, and I slipped. And when I slid down that little embankment, I
Yeah.
thought, this is not good. This is, and all that weekend, my intention was the whole weekend, Divine Spirit, God of my understanding, help me decide what I should do. Should I move here and pursue a career, or should I go back to the area that I was living and, find another pathway to follow? Well, I laid there. My girlfriend said, she's talking to me and she doesn't see me. Okay. And she looks around and there I am sitting on the ground. I'm laughing. I'm laughing. And I said, Gail, I said, I think I broke my leg or my ankle or something. And I got up and got back in the car and I got a pair of crutches and finished the class. I didn't
Oh
go
my
home.
goodness.
Did not go home. I did not go to the ER or anything, but I did when I got home. And yes, indeed, I had broken the tibia down near the ankle. And the doctor that fixed it did a fabulous job. And I was into color. I was just telling this story to some girls today. I was very much into color and color therapy and learning about the value of colors and how we can use them for mental, emotional, and physical renewal on all those levels. So I said to the doctor, could I put a colored piece of colored material in my cast? I had a great big long cast all the way up my leg. He
Oh my
said,
God.
I don't think that's going to hurt anything. And so I even went to visit a friend outside of New York City when I had my leg in the cast. And I was very careful. I took a lot of vitamins. I did meditation and prayer, and it healed up beautifully, beautifully.
So
And
why
he
was
said,
breaking a leg your sign that you were going to move to Lilydale?
because I broke it there. Here I am. Here I stay. Bang. This is it.
I was thinking that was.
Well, I thought if God wanted me there, He'd do something very, very evidential, if you will,
That was in
to
your face.
put me in the place I was supposed to be. And I just sat on that ground and I was laughing. It did hurt, yes, but I was laughing. And I said, oh my God, Gail, I think I have the answer to my question. She still didn't know where I was. Okay. And she looked around. She said, oh my God, you're on the ground. I said, yes, I think I broke my leg or sprained it or did something. Anyway, it healed beautifully and it's never given me any trouble. And to me, that was I mean, how much clearer of a day sign can
Oh
you
my
get
God.
me?
That's a very literal sign.
I know. I thought, boy, I must have been real thick if I didn't see anything before. And now I've got this huge sign. But it all turned out all right. My leg mended beautifully. My heart mended even more perfectly in the sense of completeness or satisfaction or happiness. I knew it was what I wanted to do. My Mother wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea, but my mother and my stepdad, they abided by my decision and they grew to understand Lilydale. And my mother actually came and lived with me in 2000, I think, 4 until 2010 when she passed. Uh, and so I'm so glad she could do that
I love that.
because it was a wonderful time for us. And I loved her, took care of her, gave her a rub, did her hair, cooked her. I loved my mother at that time when I had the freedom to give her my time.
Yes.
And for her and I, it was a sweet ending in the sense, and yet I still miss her. When your parents, at least I do, miss my father and mother because they were such good souls. And I'm so grateful I listened to God, Nancy, and took care of them and helped them, nurtured them, spent time with them. Many people don't get that opportunity because of their work or their families, and they are involved in other things. But I did listen, and it was possible for me to spend time with them. And I savor that very, very much,
Absolutely.
even today.
Absolutely. So I'm curious if there was another literal sign with this. What made you originally apply to be the Healing Temple chairperson?
Well, I worked under the guises of a lady who was a chairperson for a while. Her name was Thelma Carmen. She was a wonderful healer, very, um let's say, very orderly, very methodical, very set in her ways. She had her own rules. I abided by them. I knew if I wanted to pursue spiritual healing and someday perhaps be the chairperson when she retired, that when in Rome, do as the Romans do, you know what I mean? So I abided by what she required, and we did get along very well. We had a few little differences, but nothing that was earth shattering, and she coached me. She spoke with me. She treated me like one of her peers, like on the same level. And I learned a lot from that lady. And she asked me as she got a little older, because she was going to leave, if I would like to step up and take over. I mean, she always assumed that I would do that. I never assume anything that I can consciously be aware of, anyway. And it all worked out wonderfully. She uh, kind of groomed me and told me how to look out for certain things, how to embrace and invite other things of healing forward. And I listened to her, and I think that's one of the reasons, Nancy, that there has been the success of the past. I wouldn't say every of the 30 years was easy. Some of them might have been a little bit more challenging than others, but the healers want to be there. They want to come, they want to be there, they want to serve, and I treat everybody the same as best I can. And also remember respectfully to respect them and thank the audience, the congregation, the people who come, because they are searching for something that will fill their hearts with a sense of fullness or completeness about who they believe the divine creator is, who they believe healing can happen with. And if we set the stage correctly, and I don't mean that sarcastically, folks, I mean with love and embracing the respectfulness of the individual and the heal. Wonderful things happen for people there, Nancy, as you know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very important for our listeners to understand that all the healers that serve at the temple are there on their own accord. They're volunteers.
Yes, they're all volunteers. They've all been trained
Hmm.
in one of the churches here or perhaps in other areas, because There's healers that come from Albany, healers that come from Michigan, healers that come from Indiana, Wisconsin, Florida, if they're visiting Lilydale, and they fill out an application, yes, and they're very welcome to serve. I do have Lilydale does have some guidelines and rules and protocol, and I just ask them to follow that, and I explain to them why. I am not bigger than they are. They are not bigger than I. God, or the spirit of life, is the biggest energy that fills that temple with guides and teachers and helpers, if you will. And so we need to respect it all. And I tell them, don't worry about what your neighbor's doing. The healer next to you may have their own style of healing, a little different than yours. Don't worry about that. We'll handle that. And respectful, embracing the respectability of what they can do and how they can do it, and thanking them and making them feel loved and embraced and also very welcome at the temple. 30 This is my 32nd year as a chair lady, believe it or not.
Some people might not realize that you were one of the founding Lilydale Healing Association members. Yes, that you put that
Yes,
together. You and Elaine Thomas, I believe, and
yes.
setting the protocols originally way back when. Oop, I lost you. I lost Barbara. Well, you gotta love live streaming. Let me see if she pops back in again. Oh. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. I see you, Pam, and we got someone watching from Las Vegas. That's awesome. Oh, I'm glad the Healing Temple is your favorite, actually one of my favorite places. It has such a great energy to it. You just can't help but love it for sure. I'm waiting to see if Barbara pops back in again. Wonder what happened. There she is. Okay.
I did not touch anything.
That's okay.
My hands are on my lap. I did not touch a
I
thing.
just filled it in. I said, you got to love live streaming. That's what live is all about. I was saying hello to some people that are watching live with us, and they were talking about they love the Healing Temple. So glad you're back. Yay.
Oh, so am I. I thought I was going to go for a ride in outer space for a minute. I'm telling you.
Anyways, my question was that you had created this healing association that put
Yes.
together protocols and standards, and also started the Wednesday night services that we actually still have today.
Isn't
Why do
that
you feel
wonderful?
that was important to have that in place way back then?
Well, because the healing, the amount of people that came to the temple in the summer program was vast. And every year for a while, it increased, it increased. I mean, some days we had a line almost to the fire hall down the street. And, it's important at that time to handle a crowd with appropriateness, calmness, direction, and also giving them the sense it won't be much longer now. We'll have some of you folks seated. Thank you for your patience. Would you like to write in the prayer book any names of people to remember in prayer? Does anyone here need to sit down? In other words, taking good care of them, Nancy, kept them orderly, looking forward to coming into the temple, understanding the volume of people that were there. We hardly have ever had a problem with people. But there again, you would want do unto others as you would also have them do unto you.
Yeah.
So if you remember that in love and consideration, people have been very cooperative and helpful. Yes. Putting
And
it in
before there
place.
was air conditioning.
Pardon me?
Before there was air conditioning.
Yes, imagine that, folks, with 100 people. And yes, healers. Yes. Well, sometimes I would have fun with the healers at the end of the service. We always had a closing prayer around our prayer books and the intention of spiritual healing. And there were a couple days that were in the 90s, and tell me, you ladies and gentlemen, the water would run down the back of your neck. And so on those days, the funny part of me would say, today our weight loss was 10.3 pounds.
That's the truth. That
It's
is
just
so.
that, yes, God bless air conditioning. That's what I would say, yes. But the structure and the course of direction, I would talk this over with a few of the other healers, and we would come to the conclusion that it's very unfortunate that the Healing Temple stops after Labor Day, and that's the end of it, and there's no more connection other than calling Lilydale, asking for a prayer line, so on. Individual churches, like the Church of the Living Spirit, have a prayer coordinator that they can talk to or leave a prayer name and so on. But it wasn't quite the same. So myself and Elaine went to the then president of Lilydale, Fanny Swift. She was absolutely she was a gem, a diamond. What a woman. And we gave her our proposal, and she said, I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm going to leave it up to you girls, but she said, I don't have to school you. You know what to do. Go ahead and make this happen. And we did.
That's
And
awesome.
that was wonderful. And it's turned out that it has been every Wednesday night since that original discussion. I chaired for many years the Healing Temple for uh, both several churches, and at this point, I see it's well schooled and well taken care of, and it pleases me greatly because we can offer a service of love and care to someone who might need just a little upliftment and or maybe a wonderful huge healing of some kind of consciousness or thoughts or leave bad ideas behind or whatever it is they're seeking. And it's a very good thing. I'm very pleased to see that that has continued.
Yeah,
Yes,
long time. So have you seen any kind of evolution with the Healing Temple throughout all these years?
I have. I've have. And I would say uh, the healers are more, if I could say, more personable. Are they abiding to the rules and the protocol? Yes. When they come in, they sign in a sign-in book and they sit down. You know that I ask them not to talk inside of the temple, to remain silent, to keep the energy clean and collected and not disrupted. And for the most part, that is absolutely fulfilled and the request is honored. I can see also where people who come have evolved. The people who regularly come, oh, we're from the other side of Buffalo. We wouldn't miss this. We're here every summer. We just love, and they do. They love coming to the Healing Temple. The buses come in and line up, and all the people get off the buses and line up to go to the Healing Temple. And it is very, very gracious, humbling. It makes me feel so good for other people that they have the opportunity to experience this. And the healers are very, very abiding in the protocol, in the way they conduct themselves. Nancy, I feel Lilydale is very blessed. We don't have a lot of problems with personality disorders or characters that want to be the star, or, you know, it's run with the dignity and the grace and the flow of sincere spirituality. It's lovely.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
And the children love it for Children's Week.
Yeah, that's right. They're so beautiful when they do that for sure. Very
Yes, that's another thing I encouraged along with some other people, that happened for the children, so they felt that they had a part in that. They love it. And when the children heal, with the adult healers, you can look out into the seating of all the people in the temple, and you can, some of them have tears in their eyes. They're
Yeah.
just so humbled and so taken with the beauty of the children and the children's sincerity and real. I mean, those kids really mean it. They're not fooling around just to have fun. They get real serious, 8, 10, 12 year olds, and they want to do it the best they can. And it is, it's humbling, Nancy, to see that our future of life, our children of tomorrow that become adults, may still keep a piece of spirituality growing in their hearts and wanting to use that in service to help themselves and the world. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And yeah, I totally agree with that for sure. So, might there be a story you can share of a healing, a spiritual healing that you're aware of that has had changed someone's life?
Now, my spirit people told me you were going to ask that question.
Well, there you have it.
Well, there are within the temple and without being in other places and spaces, there are several, but I do remember one that was especially beautiful. A lady came, happened to sit at my bench. There's no pecking order there where someone has to go here or go there. We take people one at a time who's ever free. So there's no device of this one gets to go to this person or that person. No, it's all done in total fairness and love. She came and sat at my bench, and I don't always ask people if they have something that they would like to ask for in healing. This lady turned to me and whispered to me, I can't hear. I can't hear. I need healing on my hearing, please. And I could understand her. And I told her that if she would please let God embrace her in this temple and let herself be loved by that light, I would do my part to the best of my ability, which was to place my hands gently on her shoulders or her back or her head, and if she would, then accept that in the light of God. Well, she did, Nancy. And as the healing came to a conclusion and we were doing a closing prayer, she could hear. And she was stunned, but she was so happy. She had tears in her eyes. She could hear
Wow.
that somehow, through the grace of God's love and divine order of things, that healing was meant to be. It didn't necessarily have to be Barbara Sanson. It could have been any of the healers at the Healing Temple. But she allowed herself the renewal of having the clear channel of her hearing restored. And she's come to the temple several years. I know who she is. I know who she is. And I always give her a hug and tell her welcome back. And there are several people that have written me as the chairperson, personal letters of the healings they've had and what's happened to them. There have been many healings at the temple. Please don't think it's all been my doing. It has not. It has been many of the healers that have given healings to people that their back has been better, their headache has gone away, their ankle has unlocked from being frozen in from a fall or a break, various things. Cancer has been cured. Documentation of people who have sent things. Now it doesn't happen to everyone, and we can't say it's going to happen to this one and not those people over there. It's open to all people who come to that open their hearts and open their minds to the renewal of the love of God. It is between them, God, and the spirit workers, if you will. We have a small part that to me humbles me tremendously because it is such a beautiful, beautiful thing to witness, to see, and to know that people have received. And it's sometimes they're like little kids. It's almost you want to go up and give them a lollipop because they don't quite know what's happened. They know something has happened, but they don't feel the same way as when they came in and sat down. Something has occurred within them. And that is, of course, the love and grace and the seed of the divine blooming and growing within them. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, we've seen that a lot for sure. I was thinking when you were talking, going back when you were talking about when you used to have the salon and people would be these zucchini bread or just open up the door just to say hello. And, I can't tell you how many people I've seen that come. You get the same reception here. I mean, they love to see you at that door. They love to see you year after year. You're so welcoming, and it's been a beautiful thing, honestly.
Well, it's, you know what? I never get tired of it because it's not an act, it's genuine.
Yeah,
And I try to help people reveal that level or that layer of light or the ray of God in them. Some people are very, very ready to do that, and it's not a difficult task out of love. Other people, it may take time or visits upon visits, or some people perhaps not at all at that time. It doesn't mean that it isn't going to happen in the journey of their life. And it is most rewarding, Nancy, if people really knew the great and magnificent potential that they all have in their human life and what they can become in their thinking, in their manifestations of giving and receiving, of living a life. I think we would have more peace on earth and less unrest around us. But we can't change everybody. All we can do is change ourselves. So it's one at a time.
yeah. In keeping with that topic, what would you say to people that have never experienced a spiritual healing that may be coming to Lily Dell this season?
I would pray that they would arrive in time to experience that at the Healing Temple. Monday through Friday is 10:30 to 11:30. Saturday we start a little bit earlier as the catalog denotes this year, but I think we're going to make a time change next year, possibly on Saturdays. And Sundays 12 to 1, every evening 7 to 8 p.m. So
Mhm.
there are 2 times per day that are accessible for our summer guests. And I would say if you've never received a healing and you're not sure about it, please come and just sit. Just come and sit and observe. And if it is your turn and you are called, if you'd like to go forward, you have every right as our guest to ask questions, to feel that you are comfortable in the process of receiving. Your healer will work with you. They're not there to know all the information of your whole story of life, but they certainly are there to help you relax and understand that the process of spiritual healing is an internal and an external process that happens very safely, very gently, very lovingly to you. We are the conduits. We are the battery cables, if you will, from the light of God. And all that we do is, in a sense, simulate the the feeling of being touched in love gently, safely. Now, some people don't like to be touched. We totally understand and respect that. That is why we ask permission. May we place our hands on you in spiritual healing? If that is not comfortable for anyone at all they have to do is say, I'd rather that not happen. And we can work in the energy field, which is called the aura, around you, and the effects are the same, though we do not touch you, and we respect the courtesy of you being, forward with us, and we will accommodate you in any way that we possibly can to make your experience fulfilling and satisfying.
And the one thing I'd like to add to that, it's part of their gate pass. There's no charge, there's no fee. It's part of what they can get coming into the gate.
That is so nice that you said that, Nancy. Yes, thank you so very much.
I got one final question. I like this question to ask people. So what do you feel is the most important thing you have learned on your spiritual journey?
We are never alone. Life may be finished here, but perhaps, as many of us understand and believe, proven often, that life is infinite and eternal. That though we look different, we may operate differently, we may have different hair colors, skin tones, etc. We are all the children of the divine essence of God, our Creator. And that, of course, I always say the God of your understanding, because in many religious forms it is perhaps interpreted a little differently. I respect all of that, all of it. We are not alone.
I love that. That's a great thing to note to end on. I thank you so much for joining me, Barbara. You've been lovely.
Well,
even with popping out and popping back in again, it all worked.
Yeah, how about that? Wow. And I appreciate the opportunity of speaking to you, Nancy, and the public. And we invite you to Lilydale, folks. It is a beautiful place. The Healing Temple, as well as Inspiration Stump and the Forest Temple, are beautiful sacred grounds that hundreds and thousands of people have prayed over, walked on, left messages of love and healing. So you will feel that energy. And come and let your prayer be given to God, and may you receive in return.
Absolutely.
Thank you for asking me, Nancy.
Absolutely. And yeah, please post any comments you had. I've been reading some of the comments. If you have any questions, we can answer those also.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me, Barbara. Thank you all for joining us. Please check back on this page often for everything that's going on here at the Lilydale Assembly. This is their official Facebook page. Please like my page, Wellness with Nancy Lombardo, and Instagram, nancy.k.lombardo. My name is Nancy Lombardo. I am protecting and serving your well-being. Thank you, Barbara, and good evening to everybody.
Thank you, Nancy. You're the best. Thank you.